Hi, friend. Welcome to Holly's Highlights, a podcast designed to encourage, inspire, and equip you to intentionally live your life full of purpose. I'm your host, Holly Curby, motivational speaker, leadership cultivator, marketing strategist, and personal cheerleader. Let's check out today's highlight. Guess what? I am so excited to share with you that Holly's Highlights podcast just won in the self-help category for Firebird Podcast Award. This is so exciting. Thank you so much to the listeners for listening each episode and sharing with others, and even taking time to rate and review. In fact, I recently received the most encouraging review lately from Mama Love Lit in Canada, who says, "I just listened to my first episode and I'm hooked. Holly's message of kindness and compassion is just the message today's world needs." Thank you so much, Mama Love Lit from Canada. I sure appreciate you taking the time to rate your 5 stars and to leave that comment. Now, if you would be interested in sponsoring an episode of Holly's Highlights podcast, feel free to connect with me on hollycurby.com. That's HOLLYCURBY.com. And I'd love to see how we can partner together going forward and continuing to make Holly's Highlights sustainable as we encourage, inspire, and equip listeners to intentionally live their life full of purpose. Thank you so much. Hello, my friends. I hope this finds you well and enjoying whatever season that you're in right now. I'm not sure we know what season we're in here in Utah. It has been snowing lately, so that has us a little thrown off for this time of year, but regardless, hope you guys are enjoying the season that you are in. Now, last night I had the opportunity to take our graduating seniors to a nice dinner in celebration of the season that they're in, whether that be their upcoming or even for some of them, recent graduations. Now, I always enjoy asking, what are your plans after graduation? As they can be so diverse. As you can imagine, for most of them, their response is to go to college, and with that, many of them plan to relocate. So we get talking about jobs and where they'll apply and all that fun stuff. Now, that's one of those areas in my wheelhouse. I have overseen interviews at one point or another throughout my entire career. Entry-level positions, leadership level, executives, volunteers, you name it. And as much as I've witnessed in conducting these interviews, I am still always amazed at something that will happen that stops me in my tracks as I think, that's a new one. Now, so much that I've recently had a friend or two ask advice on how to help their teenager be prepared for an upcoming interview. So I thought we'd kind of go over some very basics. Now, these truly apply to anyone getting a position, but we're really going to hone in on those beginners. As someone who loves theater and movies, I tend to look at interviews as if an audition for a play. Can you try out for the part that we need you to be while here on stage in this role? So let's break down the process just as that. First off, we're going to set the scene. Now, whether this is by Zoom or FaceTime or even in person, you need to look as if you're prepared for the job. I have had one too many interviews where I let them know, this is Holly calling from this company, and we're doing FaceTime or Zoom. Is this still a good time for the interview? And they're like, yeah, it is. I'm like, great. I'm going to go ahead and switch you over to FaceTime, which I have already prepared them for in the emails leading up to the interview. Now, this is what boggles my mind. How many people actually turn on that video and they're laying in bed, or their hair's not done, or they even have that whole sleepy voice going on. You could tell that they overslept, or maybe even totally forgot about the interview. Think of an interview as putting your best foot forward. If you don't show up looking your best and being at your best, an interviewer has every right to assume it's all downhill from here. Now, if you're virtual, stage your background for the type of position you're seeking. So let the interviewer envision you in the role. If you're applying for a restaurant position, be in a clean kitchen with things nicely organized. If it's a business role, perhaps be sitting at a desk with a bookshelf behind you. If a Parks and Rec type position, consider doing the interview on your back deck if there isn't surrounding noise of a mower or any other interrupting sounds. If it's going to be in person, make sure to greet the front desk person or whomever is the first person that you interact with at that company. It's so important as that actually gets back to the interviewer. Were they friendly? Were they kind? Were they on time? Did they smile? Were they personable? All of that is very important. If you're rude or short or frustrated, those are going to get communicated to the interviewer and work against you. So make sure to greet that front desk person. And then, of course, dress accordingly for the job. Don't wear a tuxedo to a uniform job, nor ripped jeans to a business attire role. Now, yes, I have actually had this happen, and the tuxedo one really threw me off. Now, for the interviewer's mind, they're going through, okay, is this a joke? Do they know how to dress appropriately? Do they know how to handle situations appropriately? And they really start getting in their own head about situational moments within their company that all of a sudden they have red flags on you for. So make sure to dress accordingly for the job. Now, a part of this is just doing your due diligence and researching the company, because once you get to know a little bit more about the company, you'll know if they're more of a modest company or more of a family friendly or whatever that looks like. And of course, with all of this, be on time. In fact, be early to be on time, because if you show up late to an interview, how can the company know that you'll make it to work on time if you're even hired? I remember one interview I was having with an individual, and I really didn't even get to any of my interview questions because he started out telling me how he's needing more hours because his company has cut back his hours. And I asked him, well, why have they cut back your hours? And he said, because I can't make it to work on time. They say I need to start making it to work on time before they'll give me more hours. Here's your sign. Those are red flags. So show up to your interview on time so a company can envision you also making it to work on time. That is important. So we're going to set that scene. Look your best, be prepared and ready to go. And then we're going to go on to the next part. We're going to take the stage. Take a confident approach, but avoid an arrogant or cocky approach. So important. You'll most likely be asked at some point to share about you. And that's just the thing. Share a bit about you. This is not an ego trip. They do not need to know every job you've ever had or every award you've ever won or anything like that. It's more like an elevator pitch in a way. It is not a 30-minute documentary about every part of your life. I've actually done an interview once where I never even got to my first question because of how oversharing that person was. It revealed all I needed to know within the first 5 minutes. So be very careful to not overshare or get too detailed or lengthy, but really just a snapshot about who you are. Remember the role you're applying for and act accordingly to it. Now, if you're consistently touching your face or worse yet, picking your nose, there is no restaurant job who is going to hire you. If you are kicked back in your chair or using slang of, oh, that's sick or bro, no business-minded company is going to hire you. So remember the role you're applying for and act accordingly. Now, many people are not aware of how they come across. They don't even realize that they're smacking that gum or that they're using these sick words or kicked back in their chair. They might interview well or even have the right answers. But if they're sitting there and doing these annoyances that can come about, chomping their bubble gum or whatnot, it's going to work against them. So avoid having things in your mouth altogether. But whether you want to stand in front of a mirror and practice your interview or record yourself on your cell phone on your video, or even practice in front of a family member or a friend, be aware of how you come across in an interview. Do you talk too much with your hands? Sit on them during the interview. Do you have a tendency to overshare? Work on pauses and being comfortable in the silence. Some other nervous twitch that you might have going on? Well, practice so that you can get comfortable sitting in that interview chair. So take the stage with your best foot forward and then action. We're going to go on to that next step of what does that script or performance look like? Now, we mentioned having that elevator pitch, a little about you, your interests, your passions. Keep it personable. And it can also be fitting for the position. So, for example, Mine off the cuff would be, I'm a mother of 2 teens whom I absolutely adore. They're involved in softball and soccer, and I love cheering them on. And I'm passionate about showing care to others and encouraging people however I may. I'm educated with my master's in leadership and management and my bachelor's in mass comm and my associates in public relations. I'm involved in my community, whether it be through women's groups in my church or my children's sports or even volunteering time for local nonprofits. I really enjoy traveling with my family, and cruising is one of my favorite vacations to take ever. I could talk to you forever about cruising. I'm pretty sure my love language is anything at the spa, but all of that basically is going to emphasize I'm a family person. My family comes first. How many times do I mention family? I've got the education and I can put care into everything I do. Now, obviously, if I was going more for an executive position, I would need to tailor that a little bit. But again, you do you. Your interests, your passions, short, simple, sweet. Now, long gone are the what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses type questions. Instead, take it to the next level to be prepared for what would you bring to our team? Or how would you make our company even better? These are strength responses. They're still looking to know, why should we hire you? What are you going to add to us? What are your strengths that you're going to bring? But then other questions might include, what area do you need to improve on? And how are you working on that? Because these reveal your weaknesses. Okay, catch that. We're still doing with strengths and weaknesses, but in different forms of questions. But it's also going to reveal your self-development or perhaps lack thereof, which also reveals if you're actually going to have a growth mindset, which is so helpful in any business that you are in. People want to see that you're willing to grow and adapt and learn. Be prepared for the unexpected. Now, I've been in an interview before where the fire alarm went off. Another that was virtual, and the interviewee's little brother came bursting into the room. Go with the flow. If anything, it can show that you're flexible and adaptable and can problem solve, or even that you work well under pressure. So don't see interruptions as a frustration or a limitation, but rather an opportunity to respond in the moment. Try to be proactive and not just reactive in the situation. And then also come prepared with questions. Now, whether you have a question about the company or a question that helps you stand out and connect with the interviewer, this is going to show that you have engagement. There are interviews that I have where I say, any questions for me? Nope, I'm good. And that doesn't leave a huge impression on me. But others, some of my favorites, have been, well, what skills should someone have to best excel in this job? All right. Well, they want to know how to learn and grow. Or what is your favorite part about working for this company or representing this brand? Okay, they just built a connection with me. Or even, what does someone being successful in this role look like? Okay, they already want to aim to please and learn and grow. All of these have such growth mindset revealing and willing to adapt and learn within this role. Now, not every actor is made for every role in a play, just as not every play is perfectly suited for every actor. So it's okay if it's not a good fit for you, nor you a good fit for them. But having some questions that you can ask can help you identify that and also be able to connect with the interviewer. Interviews give good experience for both of you, either way. And you never know the bridge that you each might have, you as the one interviewing and your interviewer, that somehow, some way, somewhere might cross in the future. So don't burn those bridges, but come prepared with some good questions to close out. Now, some basics you must know to get the part. What is the position you're applying for anyhow? Read the job description. Do your research on the company, as we mentioned earlier. I get so frustrated when someone applies for a position and come to find out they wanted a completely different position, but they just didn't see it advertised. That's because we aren't hiring for that position. Or if they apply and clearly haven't read the job description as their availability doesn't match what we posted that we need. And they think, you guys can work with me. You guys can adapt to what I need to work. No, read the job description. It is there for a reason. Don't waste the interviewer's time and don't prohibit someone else from having interviewed that slot that you just took up. And then also, don't make yourself unrehirable for a future position or role in the future. So make sure that you have done your due diligence in researching that job description, researching the company, making sure it's something you want even going into it. Along with that, know what your availability is. Now, here in the USA, part-time is 31 hours and under, full-time is 32 to 40 hours. Overtime is anything past 40 for the most part. Now, once you get into salary positions, there's hourly where you get paid by the hour, salary where you're paid for the year pretty much. Those might expect you to work 60 hours or 50 hours or whatever it might be. There could be different day parts. That includes like your morning, your afternoon, your evening, and some might even have like a night shift, which is typically overnight. If you have other commitments such as sport or family or school, all of these things you need to know what you want to work, when you want to work, or what you're available for. Know what these schedules and commitments are. Don't expect the interviewer to read your mind or to know your life, okay? And don't just try to make things work, because if you don't get out of school until 3, but the job wants you there at 3:15, is that really realistic for you? Or are you pushing it being late, which could then result in poor performance or even write-ups by the company for you being late? And all of that could even lead to you having a low self-esteem or low confidence. So make sure to set yourself up for whatever you're going into that's going to be realistic and set yourself up for success. Know what you are available to work and be forthcoming and honest with the company. You're not going to get a job and then change what they need availability for. So make sure you're honest going into it and know what you truly can commit to. And then not everything is negotiable. Just as that, you can't get into a job and then negotiate hours. Not everything is going to be negotiable. And that has to do with pay also. If a position lists how much it's paying, it's completely appropriate to ask, what does growth for this position look like? And is there a timeline for that? But not, I need X amount, or this other place I interviewed is starting at this dollar amount per hour. That's a huge red flag in my books. If someone starts out with pay and they're not happy with what we're already saying the job is paying, what's going to keep them around? Because I don't want money to ever be an incentivizer. I want the passion for the job and the buy-in for the position. And then I want to reward on top of that with the pay. So be very careful to try to negotiate what that is going to look like if it's already been presented. A job only has so much wiggle room. And yes, some places will negotiate. Don't hear me wrong. When you get into different roles, they can negotiate. But again, all of this is for those beginners. So be cautious. As the most part, don't go into the interview expecting to get a different hiring amount. And then lastly with this is leave an impression. Now, I interview so many people that literally 2 days after a set of interviews, someone can ask me about someone I interviewed, and I haven't a clue who that person was in the string of interviews I've done. Then again, I do remember those who left a negative impression, such as picking their nose. Yep, that has happened on FaceTime. It was disgusting, did not get the job. Or the people who don't make eye contact. That's not going to build a rapport with my guests, with my customers. Or the ones who tell me how horrible their finances are, which, by the way, is a huge red flag to interviewers, as it can also lead to that, can they be trusted with money handling type of scenario? And then even those who bash their former employers. I don't want to hear how horrible your former employer was, because I don't want to be in a string of those that you complain about in the future, right? So we can only control what we can control. However, if someone asked a really good question towards the end of the interview, such as some I shared earlier, it has a positive effect in getting my attention. If someone thanks me for taking time to interview them and tells me that they enjoyed the process and they really look forward to the possibility of getting to work alongside me and representing our brand, it makes me stop in my tracks in a good way. Now, I often will write in my notes on the applicant their culture champion or leadership potential or something else to trigger my brain how they stood out to me. And not only are they forefront of my mind then when it comes to hiring for that role, but I can also associate for years to come how that person made me feel. Just the other night, this happened where one of those seniors that we had taken out to dinner, we were celebrating, and sharing, what was going on after high school and that they were going to pursue this or that in college. And it triggered that interview with him years ago where he shared with me his passions, and even his reference check that I checked into was super impressive because of that passion. He left an impression. He also obviously got the job. So leave a good impression. So what will make you stand out above others? Maybe it's a kind word at the end of the interview, an email follow-up thanking the interviewer for their time, a note mailed thanking them for the opportunity. That would shock me because not very many people send notes these days. Or even the interaction you had between their front desk receptionist or the first person interacted with there on site, thanking them for their time as you leave. Whatever it is, leave a positive impression. Now, again, these are just some of the ultimate basics, but I hope they help in getting you or even your friend or child or student, if you're a teacher or mentor, or a grandchild or neighbor, or whomever you're trying to help in getting a job, that it will help in setting up success in having that first initial audition. Okay. Interview. As for our final tip, simply put by poet and dramatist Oscar Wilde says, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Now, if you would like to dive deeper into this topic, there are 9 other episodes I would recommend for you to go back and listen to here on Holly's Highlights. The first one is going to be season 2, episode 2, where we talk about balancing life, student edition. Because let's face it, if you're going to get a job, you're going to be balancing life now with school and work and everything in between. Next one is going to be season 2, episode 4 on 3 ways to use your personality test. Perhaps you're not even sure what to apply for, what you have interest in doing. Feel free to take this personality test and find out more about taking a personality test and how that can reveal some things that you actually enjoy and might be really good at doing. Season 2, episode 15 leads us through 5 things employers wish you knew. Just a heads up from being on this end of it, 5 things employers wish you knew. Going into season 3, episode 11, 5 must-reads for personal growth and development. We should always be growing and developing ourselves. We are going to be our biggest advocate, our biggest cheerleaders. We need to also make sure that we're the ones investing in us. So make sure to check that out on 5 must-reads for personal growth and development. Now, some of you are a little nervous about interviewing itself. Well, season 3, episode 12 is going to help you with that on how to talk to people. And we actually speak with an interviewer himself who does interviewing with celebrities. So feel free to check that out and just learn how to have some of those casual conversations. Then season 3, episode 20, employment in a post-pandemic world. For those of you who might be scaling on the older side, or this is not your first rodeo, this would be a good episode for you in just employment post-pandemic and what that looks like. And then, of course, season 4, episode 17 is 10 things every student needs to know. Just some helpful tips there for you guys. Season 4, episode 19 is Labor Day reflection on work ethics and service and servant heart. Work ethic is a huge one. So check out that episode in any industry that you want to go into. And then last but not least is season 4, episode 24, where I share 10 things that I've learned on the job. I hope these are helpful for you, but whatever you're looking at doing, I just hope that you approach it with, again, that best foot forward, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for joining me on this journey of life. I hope that today's highlight has been encouraging, inspiring, and equipping so you can go out and live your life full of purpose. I'd be honored if you'd take a moment to leave a review, or better yet, subscribe. We can also stay in touch by joining my email list at hollycurby.com. That's HOLLYCURBY.com. Until next time, make it a great day for a great day.